The violet overtime blocks are still warm from the payroll printer when Evan draws a black line through all 11 of them. Training, he says, writing the word in the margin. My last late-night session ended at 12:43 this morning. 27 overtime hours disappear under his pen. I look through the glass wall of his cubicle. On the conference room screen, Northline's packaging director is waiting for our client review to begin. You're calling 11 nights of client approvals training? Evan leans back with the little smirk he uses when he thinks I'm being young in front of him. Trainees don't get overtime. I nod and carry the altered sheet into the meeting. 10 minutes later, Celia Hart asks why our labor summary shows no overnight production work. Evan calls me an observer who stayed late for experience. Celia goes quiet, opens Northline's shared meeting calendar, and scrolls. Every midnight session still carries my name as host. The calendar covers 11 nights. Celia looks at me through the camera. Mara, were you observing these meetings or running them? Beside me, Evan's knee stops bouncing. 6 months earlier, I might have saved him. That morning, I say, I'd like to understand how Velez Carton is defining those terms before I answer. Evan turns his head slowly. His expression barely changes, but I know him well enough to recognize the moment he realizes I'm no longer helping him hide the knife. Celia's face occupies the largest square on the screen. She's in Northline's test kitchen in Cincinnati, seated beneath lights bright enough to make everyone look recently interrogated. Behind her, sample trays of refrigerated pasta sit in neat rows. Our printed sleeves are wrapped around them, each one a slightly different shade of cream. The shade is why we have been awake half the month. Northline's brand standard calls it hearth linen. On our first proof, hearth linen looked gray under grocery store LEDs. On the second, it went yellow under the warmer case lights Northline used in its flagship stores. Then our coating supplier changed a resin without warning, and the same ink formula began drying half a shade darker at our Tennessee plant than at our press in Ohio. Customers might never notice. Celia notices if a period is a hair too low beneath the word Parmesan. She folds her hands. All right. How does Velez define them? Evan recovers quickly. That is one of the inconvenient things about him. He is not stupid, and panic makes him smoother. Mara is in a development track, he says. She's been shadowing client-facing production work. I probably used observer too casually. You said she wasn't performing production labor. She wasn't operating a press. Neither is Evan, but he says this while wearing a white shirt so crisp it seems to have no memory of a human body. Celia looks toward another screen. I have approval emails from Mara. Supervised approvals? Were you supervising them? I was available. At 12:17 on Tuesday morning, Evan had been available in the sense that he existed somewhere in Ohio. When I called because Plant 2 was about to run 40,000 sleeves from the wrong PDF, he sent me a thumbs-up emoji 14 minutes later. By then, I had stopped the plate room myself. I keep my hands under the table. There is blue wax under my right thumbnail from the China marker tucked behind my ear. Celia clicks something. A calendar entry fills the shared screen. Northline color alignment. Plant 2 host, Mara Velez. Attendees, Celia Hart, Mara Velez, Denise Shaw, Quentin Ames, 11:30 p.m., 12:45 a.m. In the notes field beneath the link are my instructions for photographing the press sheet under D50 light, checking the cream build against revision F, and holding production until Celia confirms the result. Evan reaches for his coffee and discovers it is empty. Celia closes the entry. I don't need an answer this minute. I need a clean labor and approval history before our launch audit. You'll have it, Evan says, from payroll records, production records, and the calendar. Of course. And Mara? I look up. Please stay on this account until we understand who approved what. Evan answers for me. Absolutely. Celia's mouth tightens by less than an inch. I asked Mara. The conference room seems suddenly full of small mechanical sounds. The vent ticking, the laptop fan, someone backing a forklift through the press floor beyond the wall. I'll stay through the review, I say. After that, I need my work status clarified in writing. Evan's empty cup creaks in his hand. Celia nods once. Reasonable. The meeting moves on because expensive launches do not pause for humiliation. We discuss the Ohio sample, the Tennessee density readings, and a mozzarella photograph that has somehow acquired a green cast. Evan talks more than usual. I speak only when Celia asks me something directly. At the end, she says, "Send the corrected revision map by noon." "I will," I say. Evan says at the same time, "We will." Celia signs off. The screen turns black, reflecting the two of us at the table. Evan looks tall even while sitting. I look exhausted. My dark hair is twisted up with a binder clip because I lost the elastic sometime around midnight. Behind my ear, the blue marker resembles a cigarette from an older, meaner movie. Evan closes the laptop. "You enjoyed that?" I enjoyed what? Making me look dishonest in front of the client. I take the payroll sheet from my folder and flatten it between us. "Did you tell Ruth to change these hours?" I approved the training code. After she printed the original sheet? "You don't understand the margin situation." "Then explain it." His gaze flicks toward the glass wall. Outside, two estimators are pretending to study a pallet specification. One of them has been holding the page upside down for at least 30 seconds. Evan stands and lowers the blinds. That is how privacy works at Velez Carton Label. Everyone sees you create it. He sits again. Northline was priced aggressively. "You mean low?" "I mean aggressively. We needed an anchor account if we were going to finance the Heidelberg." The Heidelberg is the new 7-color press Evan has been talking about for a year. He keeps a glossy brochure for it on his credenza. In the photograph, the machine is blue and enormous, and clean enough to perform surgery on. "We don't own it," I say. "We won't ever own it if every difficult job gets loaded with uncontrolled labor." "My labor wasn't uncontrolled. You scheduled the meetings. The client scheduled most of them. And you assigned me. As development. You wanted client exposure. I wanted the coordinator job I've been doing since November. You are a junior coordinator." The word junior didn't join any of those calls. He rubs the bridge of his nose. For a second, he looks like the cousin who once drove across town at 11 at night because my kitchen ceiling had started leaking and I didn't know where the shutoff valve was. He arrived in dress shoes, swore at the plumbing for an hour, then ate peanut butter from the jar while we waited for the emergency maintenance man. That Evan is never completely gone. He simply sends the bill later in a currency no one discussed. "Mara, the company is carrying a lot right now." "So am I. I know about your mom's house." I lean back. That is not a payroll category. His jaw shifts. 2 years ago, when my mother's adjustable mortgage jumped and the duplex on Fulton started swallowing both our paychecks, Uncle Thomas gave me extra weekend work checking pharmaceutical carton proofs. I thanked him so often the gratitude became part of my job description. Evan had been the one who handed me the first stack. "Family helps family," he said then. Now he glances at the 11 crossed-out lines. "Nobody's saying the time had no value. Payroll is. I can make it up in your review. My landlord doesn't accept performance reviews. You live in your mother's duplex, and I pay rent." He drums his fingers once. "This is exactly why I didn't want to discuss it in the middle of a client meeting." "You discussed it 5 minutes before 1. "I expected you to act like part of the business." "I did. That's why Northline still has a launch file." His face hardens, but there is something else under it. Calculation, maybe, or recognition. Evan gathers the payroll sheet and aligns its edges with the table. "Go finish the revision map. I'll talk to Ruth." "When?" "Today." "What are you telling her?" "That we need to review the coding." That's not an answer. It's the answer you're getting at 10 in the morning. He opens the blinds. The estimators flee with their upside-down page. I go back to my desk, which sits between customer service and the door to the ink room. The air smells faintly of solvent, burnt coffee, and the cinnamon gum Ruth chews when payroll is late. My inbox contains 63 messages, 5 are marked urgent. 1 is from Celia. Thank you for staying precise this morning. Please send the revision map directly to all listed recipients. That is Celia's version of putting a hand on someone's shoulder. She does not use exclamation points, and I have never seen her write the word please unless she wants the sentence remembered. I open the Northline folder and pull up the revision map. Revision A used the old nutritional panel. B corrected the saturated fat. C changed the bowl photograph. D moved the recyclable film statement. E corrected a barcode magnification issue that Evan had called the kind of thing scanners usually forgive. Scanners had declined to forgive it. F contained the current color build. Each revision has a date, an approver, and a location. I built the map after our Tennessee plant produced 6,000 obsolete sleeves, and everyone spent a day speaking about communication gaps, as if communication were weather. At 11:52, I email revision F to the full Northline list. At 11:54, Evan appears beside my desk. Conference room. Did Ruth correct the hours? Bring your notebook. He walks away before I stand. Ruth watches me from payroll. She is in her 50s, with silver hair she cuts herself and glasses that hang from a beaded cord. Her gum stops moving when our eyes meet. Then she looks down at her monitor. That answer is clear enough for now. In the conference room, Evan has placed a document face down on the table. Uncle Thomas sits beside him, turning his wedding ring around his finger. My uncle is broad-shouldered and soft-spoken, with the permanent squint of someone who spent 30 years judging color beside presses. He founded the company with one die cutter, a rented loading dock, and my Aunt Lucia keeping invoices at their dining room table. He can spot a bent carton flap from 10 feet away. He can also avoid an unpleasant sentence so patiently that the other person eventually says it for him. Mija, he says as I enter. At work, he usually calls me Mari. I take the chair across from them. Evan folds his hands. We want to resolve this constructively. Did you correct my time? Uncle Thomas exhales through his nose. We're looking at the whole picture. The whole picture is family language for a frame in which your part becomes very small. Evan turns over the document. At the top is a title I have never seen before. Client Production. Specialist below. It is a salary that works out to $73 more per week than I earn now, assuming I never stay late. You said you wanted recognition for the work you're doing, Evan says. Here it is. I scan the duties, client reviews, cross-plant coordination, launch support, availability during critical production windows. There are no defined hours, no overtime, no authority to stop a press, approve added freight, or require corrected artwork. Responsibility has been printed in bold. Authority has gone missing in the margins. When does this take effect? I ask. Immediately, Evan says. And the 27 hours? The salary adjustment will be retroactive to the beginning of this pay period. Uncle Thomas gives me a hopeful look, as though Evan has placed a warm meal between us. That doesn't cover the overtime, I say. It's more than we budgeted for your position, Evan says. It also turns every future late night into free work. You wanted to advance. I want the hours I already worked. Uncle Thomas presses his palm to the table. A crescent of blue ink stains the side of his thumb. He still walks the press floor every morning with the same kind of China marker I use. Your cousin is trying to give you a path, he says. A path to where? His eyes lift to mine, hurt and warning mixed together. You know what this company has done for our family. There it is, the old ledger, opened without anyone admitting they keep it. I think of my mother's kitchen ceiling, the pharmaceutical proofs, the envelope of grocery store gift cards Aunt Lucia tucked into my coat when the mortgage reset. I think of 11 nights when Northline's Tennessee crew waited for my decision while Evan slept, and how quickly help turns into ownership when the person receiving it is the one with less money. Evan slides a pen across the table. The pen stops beside my hand. I take the blue China marker from behind my ear instead. On the job description, I circle availability during critical production windows. Then I circle the salary. Then the blank space where reporting authority should be. I'll review this, I say. It's a straightforward promotion. Then it can survive 24 hours. Evan's smile returns, smaller now. Celia requested you remain on Northline. Through the review, she requested continuity, then correcting my pay would be a good start. Uncle Thomas looks toward the closed door. Mara, don't make this bigger than it needs to be. I cap the marker. I didn't schedule 11 midnight meetings, I say. I'm just the name still on them. For the first time all morning, Evan does not have a quick answer. I leave the unsigned promotion on the table. When I return to my desk, my access to the Northline calendar is gone. I click refresh. The calendar flashes once, then gives me the same message. You no longer have permission to view this resource. My revision map is still open. Northline emails still fill my inbox. The change is so specific, it almost makes me laugh. At 12:31, an invitation arrives from Evan. Northline account transition required attendees. Mara Velez, Owen Price. Owen works in sales operations and owns 6 pairs of shoes that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. He is 34, charming without being oily, and capable of remembering the names of everyone's pets after one conversation. He once sold a regional bakery on metallic ink by comparing the finish to the dashboard trim in the owner's restored Mustang. He has never approved color on a running press. He appears at my desk carrying a leather notebook and a bottle of sparkling water. I have been summoned, he says. So have I. Should I bring protective eyewear? For Evan or the meeting? That answer scares me. We walk to the smaller conference room. Evan is already there with a printed agenda. He has changed shirts. The new one is pale blue and just as crisp, which means he keeps emergency shirts in his office. I decide there is something unnerving about a man prepared for both ink spills and family betrayal before lunch. Owen will serve as Northline account lead, effective immediately, he says. Owen's smile slips. Account lead? That's what we discussed. We discussed support. You'll have support. Mara is preparing a complete process handoff. I am? Evan slides the agenda toward me. Under my name are 5 items: active specifications, contacts, open risks, approval protocol, historical context. The historical context alone could take a week. You told Celia I would remain on the account, I say. I told her we'd provide continuity. She asked for me. And you're here, supporting the transition. Owen looks from Evan to me. Was this decision made before or after this morning's review? This is an internal staffing matter, Evan says. That means after, I tell Owen. Evan taps the agenda. Let's keep personalities out of this. Whose? He ignores that. All Northline communication now goes through Owen. Mara, you will not contact the client directly unless Owen or I requests it. What about the revision map Celia asked me to send? That was before we clarified the reporting structure. I already sent it. Evan's eyes narrow. To whom? The full list, like she requested. Going forward, you need approval. Owen opens his notebook but does not write. I'm going to say something inconvenient. Evan sits back. I can handle the client relationship, Owen says. I cannot look at a press sheet and tell you why a neutral is shifting green. Mara can brief you. That isn't the same thing. Then learn. Owen glances at me. Am I training? I cough into my hand. Evan's stare could flatten corrugated board. Owen lifts both palms. Bad timing. Sorry. He is not sorry. We spend 40 minutes on the account. I explain the 3 plants, the coding change, and the reason Tennessee must use a different density target until the supplier stabilizes the new resin. Owen asks good questions. Evan interrupts whenever one of my answers makes it sound as though I know more than my title allows. At the end, Evan hands me another copy of the promotion offer. Sign by 5 tomorrow. And if I don't? You remain a junior coordinator under the responsibilities appropriate to that position, which apparently include training my new account lead. Owen closes his notebook. I can read the room outside if that helps. It doesn't, Evan says. It would help me. He leaves with the agenda. I carry the promotion back to my desk and place it face down beneath my keyboard. At 2, Celia emails me. I can no longer see you on the review series. Has your assignment changed? I type 3 answers and delete all of them. The first sounds angry. The second sounds frightened. The third sounds like something written by a hostage with access to Microsoft Outlook. Finally, I write, Evan has assigned Owen Price as account lead and instructed me to route Northline communication through him. Owen is receiving the technical handoff today. I remain available for duties assigned within my current position. I have copied Evan so he can clarify the transition. I copy Owen, too. Evan reaches my desk before Celia replies. You were instructed not to contact the client. She contacted me. You should have forwarded it. She asked me a direct question about my assignment. You are creating a narrative. You changed my access 12 minutes after I declined to sign a salary document. His nostrils flare. Careful. The word is quiet enough that customer service keeps typing. I stand. Evan is 6 inches taller than I am, and he likes conversations conducted from that difference. Standing does not erase it. It just makes him look down deliberately. Is that a work instruction? I ask, because I'm trying to keep those clear. He lowers his voice further. I am trying to give you a way out of a bad morning. You mean a way to make the next 11 nights cheaper. You think one calendar makes you untouchable? No. The honest answer unsettles him more than a brave one would have. I am painfully touchable. He controls my schedule, my title, and the paycheck that covers half my mother's mortgage. My uncle owns the building. Ruth answers to both of them. Northline is Evan's account, no matter whose name sits on the invitations. Celia's reply appears on my screen while he is still beside me. Understood. Owen, please include Mara on all technical approvals until the launch history is reconciled. Evan reads it upside down. She's trying to protect her launch, he says. I know. This is not personal to her. I know that too. He walks away. On Friday morning, my paycheck hits without the overtime. I know before I open the stub because the deposit notification is nearly the same amount as always. I print it anyway and place it in a folder with the altered timesheet, my original time log, and the 11 meeting invitations still preserved in my email. I do not forward company files to myself. I do not download Northline artwork. I keep only my employment records and meeting notices addressed to me. Anger makes people sloppy. Evan is waiting for sloppy. Ruth watches me slide the pay stub into the folder. When I pass payroll on my way to the break room, she says, Mara. Her office is barely an office, more like a closet someone widened after an argument. A ceramic frog guards the candy dish on her filing cabinet. Its mouth is open in permanent financial shock. I step inside. Ruth closes the door. I can't discuss management instructions. I didn't ask. The coding came to me approved. By whom? Her gum shifts from one side of her mouth to the other. I just said I can't discuss it. You brought me in here to not discuss it? I brought you in here because I don't like being stared at every time you walk past. I looked at you once. You have a very sustained once. Despite myself, I smile. She opens a drawer and removes my original timesheet. It has my handwritten entries, my supervisor code, and Evan's initials beside the first 6 late-night sessions. The last 5 have no initials. Across the bottom, in Ruth's square handwriting, is a note. Recode per EV pending classification review. She lets me see it for perhaps 3 seconds, then puts it away. Your copy should reflect what you originally submitted, she says. It does. Good. Ruth. I process what I'm given. I understand. She reaches for her gum pack. Understanding is not the same as liking. No, good. That is all she will give me. It is more than she needed to. At 4, I find Denise in the quality cage, measuring a stack of Northline samples with a handheld spectrophotometer. Denise runs second shift with the calm of a woman who has seen every possible way a machine can embarrass a man. Her gray braids are tied at the nape of her neck. Safety glasses rest on top of her head. though she tells everyone else they belong over their eyes. Your cream is misbehaving again, she says. Which plant? Ours. 0.6 toward yellow since yesterday. Same ink lot, supposedly. I pick up the top sheet. The sleeve looks fine until I set it beside the approved drawdown. Then the difference becomes obvious, a warmth that makes the white sauce in the photograph look old. I reach behind my ear, but the blue marker is gone. Denise holds it up between two fingers. You left this by the light booth Tuesday. I thought I lost it. You lose hair ties. You abandon markers. She gives it back. I circle the affected color patch and write the reading beside it. The wax catches on the coating. Denise, do you remember the Northline handoffs from the late sessions? I remember you bringing vending machine pretzels and calling them dinner. Do the logs show when I took over? They show when everybody took over. I'm not asking you to make a statement for me. Good, because I hate statements. A statement is a conversation wearing uncomfortable shoes. I'm asking you to keep signing the handoff times the way you normally do. She lowers the spectrophotometer. Did someone ask me not to? Not that I know of. Then why are you asking? Because payroll called those sessions training. Denise looks at the blue circle on the sheet. Were they paying Celia to train you? No. Were they paying me? No. Then that was a very efficient classroom. Her humor disappears as quickly as it came. The handoff book stays on the floor, she says. Nobody carries it upstairs, including you. Nobody tears pages out. Nobody takes pictures. You need something from it. You ask through the normal process. I know. But I sign my times. Always have. That's all I wanted. No, it isn't. She lifts the top sheet and checks the one underneath. It's all you're asking from me. I nod. That part matters, she says. At 4:47, Owen calls me into his office. He has Northline's latest slide deck open across two monitors and his tie draped over a filing cabinet. I need you to look at something without officially looking at it. That sounds billable. I'm serious. So am I. He turns one monitor toward me. The slide shows the approval path Evan plans to present at the launch audit. Evan appears at the top as executive account owner. Owen sits beneath him as client lead. Denise is listed under plant execution. My name appears in a small box at the bottom. Development support. He sent this to Celia. I ask. Not yet. Under my box, a dotted line connects me to something called observational review. I lean closer. What is observational review? I was hoping you knew. It sounds like watching paint dry with a college credit attached. Owen rubs his mouth to hide a smile. He wants the 11 sessions described as guided exposure. Guided by whom? That field is blank. Convenient. I told him Northline will compare this to their own records. What did he say? That the calendar doesn't reflect internal responsibility. It is a smart argument. A meeting host can be an administrator. An attendee can speak without owning a decision. The calendar proves I was there, but not every minute of what I did. Evan has stopped trying to erase the meetings. Now he is changing what they meant. Owen studies me. Did you really lead all 11? Celia led the first half of the first one. After that, yes. And you approved holds. I recommended holds. Celia approved anything that affected launch timing. That distinction matters. I know. Do you have records? The company has records. Approval emails, revision maps, press sheets, which Evan controls. Northline has the emails. He sits back. You're less panicked than I would be. I'm panicked on a budget. He laughs once, then looks guilty for it. At 5, Evan stops at my desk. The offer. I pull it from beneath my keyboard and hand it to him unsigned. He does not take it immediately. You're making a mistake, he says. Then put the overtime terms and decision authority in writing. The role is salaried. Then no. His fingers close around the paper. On Monday, my schedule has been reduced from 40 hours to 32. The change is posted beside the time clock where everyone can see it. My name is highlighted yellow. Below mine, Owen has been assigned the next 3 Northline night reviews. At 9:06, my mother texts me a photograph of an envelope from the mortgage company. Payment adjustment notice, she writes. Call me when you can. At 9:08, Evan passes my desk and says, pleasantly, morning. I look at the yellow line beside my name. Morning, I say. Then I take a fresh page from my notebook and write down the time. At 9:12, I email Evan and Uncle Thomas asking for written confirmation of my new schedule, the business reason for the reduction, and whether my duties have changed. Evan replies at 9:14. Scheduling reflects current operational needs. I print the email. My mother answers on the second ring. I didn't mean call me this second, she says. Don't you work? Apparently not on Fridays anymore. There is a pause, followed by the scrape of a chair across her kitchen floor. What happened? I tell her about the hours, leaving out Celia's name and the details of hearth linen. My mother has spent 30 years cleaning offices after other people go home. She understands erased work better than color density. She also understands mortgage notices. The adjustment is $86, she says. I can take another building on Tuesdays. You already have the medical offices. Those are every other week. You said your shoulder was bothering you. My shoulder doesn't pay rent. I close my eyes. Through the glass wall, Evan is laughing with one of the equipment financing representatives. The Heidelberg brochure lies open on his credenza. I'll cover the increase, I say, with 32 hours. I have some money set aside. The money set aside is $840 in a savings account labeled roof, although the duplex roof has never once respected the account's purpose. My mother lowers her voice. Your aunt called. About what? Sunday dinner. Aunt Lucia's Sunday dinners are less an invitation than a recurring weather pattern. Everyone comes, complains about the parking, and leaves with a container that cannot be returned empty. And? She said maybe this week should be family only. I look at the Velez Carton logo on the wall. What am I? You know what she meant. Yes. Mara, your uncle helped us when the loan changed. I remember. So does he. She makes a small, tired sound. Are 27 hours worth doing this? The question hits harder because she is not cruel when she asks it. She is scared. It isn't only 27 hours. That is exactly what people say right before something becomes very expensive. I turn my chair toward the window. Below it, the loading dock is busy with Northline cartons. A forklift carries a pallet past, each case marked with the revision code I created. I have to go, I say. Mara, I'll call tonight. You always say that when you're angry. I'm trying not to say something worse. I hang up and immediately wish I had not. At 10:30, Owen asks me whether viewing condition means the lighting in a store or the emotional state of the person viewing. Usually the lighting, I say. Emotionally, everyone in packaging is unwell. He wheels his chair closer with a printed Northline approval. This says the Tennessee sample passed under D50. Who checked it? Quentin sent the reading. Quentin Ames is Northline's procurement analyst. He knows resin pricing, shipping lanes, and exactly how many pennies 1,000 sleeves can move before a meeting becomes unpleasant. He does not work in a press room. Quentin received the reading, I say. He didn't take it. Owen points to the email. He wrote approved for freight release. Look at the attachment. The photograph shows a press sheet beneath a light booth. The booth's display reads TL84. That's store light, I say, not D5 daylight. The sheet looks fine. On your monitor in an office from a photograph taken under the wrong light. That sounds less fine when you say it, because it is. He scrolls down. Evan told me to release it. Then ask Evan which approval standard changed. He's with the bank. Of course he is. Owen studies the photograph again. What would you do? Hold the courier until Tennessee sends readings under D50. The courier leaves in 20 minutes. Then I'd call the plant. He offers me the phone. I'm not the account lead. Mara. My instructions say all communication goes through you or Evan. I am asking you, in writing, His eyebrows rise. You're standing here. Standing didn't pay very well last week. He turns to his computer and sends a 2-line email asking me to conduct a technical verification on Northline at my normal hourly rate. He copies Evan. I call Tennessee. The sample fails under D50. Owen holds the courier and the plant corrects the drawdown before the package leaves. The delay costs $45. At noon, Evan returns from the bank and calls Owen into his office. The blinds remain open this time. Evan speaks. Owen crosses his arms. Evan speaks longer. Owen points toward the press floor, then toward my desk. 3 minutes later, Owen comes out. I have been reminded that all labor commitments require authorization. You're a supervisor, apparently in a developmental sense. At the end of the day, a corrected schedule appears beside the time clock. I am back to 40 hours, but Friday is labeled unpaid flex availability, unless assigned. I photograph my own schedule with the company-approved timekeeping app, which employees use when supervisors change shifts after posting. The app emails a timestamped copy to payroll and to me. Evan notices. The schedule is right there, he says. I know. That's what I photographed. You're turning every routine decision into evidence. No, some of them arrive that way. Saturday morning, I sit at a folding table in the back room of Juniper Print Brokerage with a loop, my blue marker, and 12 proofs for a coffee roaster that wants black bags to look black instead of brown. Rena Cho owns Juniper. She used to buy short-run cartons from Velez until Evan raised her minimum order. Her office occupies the rear half of a converted locksmith shop and has a radiator that clangs every 9 minutes. I can pay you for 6 hours, she says. If it takes 8, stop at 6. I look up from the proof. Really? That expression concerns me. I'm used to deadlines having more confidence than budgets. My budget has excellent boundaries. Rena sets a paper cup of coffee beside me. So should you. She does not ask why I am suddenly available for weekend work. She gives me a purchase order, a written rate, and access only to the files I need. The simplicity feels luxurious. I earn enough to cover the mortgage increase and groceries. I also spend my only free morning leaning over black film while the radiator tries to communicate with the dead. When I get home, my mother has left a container of Aunt Lucia's arroz con pollo on my porch. The lid is one of mine. There is no note. I eat it standing at the kitchen counter and call her. I wasn't angry at you, she says. I was angry at you. I know. That's why I said me. I close the container. Did you go to dinner? Yes. How was family? Miserable. Your aunt cooked for 12 and then acted offended that people ate. I laugh before I can stop myself. My mother grows quiet. Evan said you embarrassed him in front of a customer. He changed my timesheet before a meeting with that customer. He said you were being promoted. He offered me $73 more a week to work as many late nights as he wanted. $73 after taxes. Before. Oh. She sounds personally offended by the arithmetic. That is not a promotion. That is a coupon. I sit down. He cut my hours after I refused. Her silence changes shape. You didn't tell me that. I told you I lost Fridays. That is not the same sentence. I didn't want you worrying. I clean conference rooms. Worrying is what I do while other people sleep. She sighs. Your uncle gave me those gift cards because I asked Lucia for help. You know that, right? I thought he offered. No, I asked. Your aunt bought them. Thomas put them in an envelope with the company logo because men enjoy making kindness look tax-deductible. I rubbed the blue wax stain on my thumb. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed the help, and you already felt bad enough. The old ledger in my head loses a column. On Monday, Northline's Revision G arrives while I am at lunch. Revision G changes the cream build for the Tennessee coating and leaves the Ohio formula untouched. Celia approves it at 12:18. Owen forwards the approval to Evan at 12:21. At 12:26, Evan sends Plant 2 a release packet built from Revision E. I discover it at 4:39 when Denise brings a sample upstairs. Tell me hearth linen is supposed to look like mushroom soup now, she says. The sleeve in her hand is a warm, dull gray. Denise has marked the corner with the time and press number. I open the production folder. The packet says E. The active map says G. Owen is on the phone with Celia, confidently discussing tomorrow's courier delivery. I hold the sample where he can see it. His sentence stops in the middle. "I'll call you back," he tells Celia. Evan comes out of his office as Owen hangs up. "What happened?" Owen asks me. "Plant 2 received revision E. I sent G to Evan." "I used the approved base packet," Evan says. "Mara's map should have carried forward the unchanged assets. The cream build changed. Then why wasn't the plant alerted?" "Because you removed me from the account." His face goes still. Denise sets the sample on Owen's desk. Press is waiting. "How long to correct it?" Owen asks. "Files, plate, drawdown, 2 hours if pre-press jumps it." The last Northline courier leaves at 7. Evan looks at me. "Fix the packet." It is 4:47. My day ends at 5. "I'll do it at my normal rate with overtime after 5, I say. "Send that in writing." "We are not negotiating during a press hold." "I'm not negotiating. I'm telling you the condition. You created the revision map and sent revision G at noon. You own the process. I'm junior development support. Owen owns the account." Owen winces at the title. Evan steps closer. "If this courier is missed, Northline loses a review day." "Then send the email." He walks into his office. At 4:58, no email has arrived. At 5, I log out. Evan blocks the aisle beside my desk. "You're leaving." My schedule says 5. "I just directed you to fix a client issue. I asked you to confirm the paid overtime. I will address your time after launch." "We already tried that." Around us, keyboards have gone silent. Uncle Thomas stands in his doorway. Ruth is visible beyond payroll, one hand resting on her ceramic frog. Evan lowers his voice. "If you walk out, do not pretend you care about this company." I pick up my bag. I care enough to stop teaching it that my work is free. He moves aside. I make it to the parking lot before my hands begin shaking. The courier leaves without the corrected proof. Northline loses 1 review day. The emergency delivery the next morning costs Velez $860. Evan calls a staff meeting at 9. He stands beneath the logo with the warm gray sleeve on the table in front of him. "We had a preventable failure," he says. "Critical process knowledge was withheld during an account transition." Every face turns toward me. I keep my hands flat on my notebook. "The revision map was current," I say. "The approved file was in the production folder. A folder is not training." From the back row, a young estimator named Cal Mercer raises his hand. Cal has worked at Velez for 3 months and still wears his visitor badge by mistake at least twice a week. "What about Mara's training checklists?" he asks. Evan looks at him. "Her what?" "The Northline handoff checklists. They're in shared operations under client launch templates." Cal opens his laptop and projects the folder. There are my documents: revision control, lighting verification, plant handoff, courier release, escalation contacts. Each carries a creation date from months before the dispute. The revision control checklist says, in bold, confirm active map before releasing base packet. At the bottom is an acknowledgement field. Trained by Mara Velez. Evan's digital signature appears on 4 of them. Owen's voice is soft. "You signed that she trained the team." Nobody looks at me now. They look at Evan. He closes the meeting early. At 3:16, Celia sends the invitation for Northline's formal launch audit. Required attendees include Evan, Owen, Denise, Ruth, Uncle Thomas, and me. Attached is the labor and approval timeline Evan submitted. My 11 nights are labeled optional guided exposure. Celia's message contains 1 sentence. Please bring the underlying records. The underlying records belong to 4 different departments, which means Evan can delay them without technically refusing. My request for the press handoff book goes to Denise, who sends it to Quality, which sends it to Uncle Thomas, who asks why I need records Northline already has. I copy Celia on my answer. The book is delivered to the conference room 20 minutes later. Ruth receives a separate request for original time entries, coding changes, and payroll approvals. She closes her office door and stays inside for most of the morning. Owen prints the approval emails from Northline's shared archive. Cal provides the checklists from shared operations, along with their file histories. I bring the folder I have kept beside my desk. Inside are my pay stubs, my original time log, the altered payroll sheet, my posted schedules, and 11 invitations addressed to me. At noon, Evan sends me a message asking to meet privately. He chooses the press observation room, a narrow space above Plant 1 with windows overlooking the units. The press is running a regional pet food label, and the repeated golden face of a retriever flickers beneath us. Evan closes the door. I corrected the Northline packet, he says. I saw revision G. I mean the audit packet. Did you correct optional guided exposure? He leans against the counter. He has left his jacket downstairs, and his sleeves are rolled up. There is black ink on one cuff. It makes him look more like the man who used to help Uncle Thomas on the floor, and less like the man in the Heidelberg brochure. I clarified that you had a more active role as the launch progressed. I led the second session. You led portions of it. I hosted it, presented the readings, and sent the hold recommendation. Celia made the decision. Yes, she was the client. He looks through the glass at the press. The bank is reviewing the expansion line Thursday. I know. If Northline concludes we misrepresented labor, they may delay renewal. A delay changes the revenue forecast. The forecast changes the loan. And that changes the Heidelberg. It changes 19 people's workload over the next 3 years. That is the argument Evan has been saving because it is his best one. The new press would increase capacity. It could bring work now sent to outside plants back into our building. He has spreadsheets showing less weekend labor, faster changeovers, and 2 additional press positions if sales holds. He is not lying about any of that. He looks at me. I will have Ruth restore your 27 hours. With overtime? Yes. In this payroll? The next one. And the reduced schedule. 40 hours. It already is. Then that's resolved. What do you want? At the audit, explain that you were developing into the client role. That is true. Developing isn't the same as training. Say the role was evolving. It was. My pay wasn't. His mouth tightens. You don't need to characterize every internal disagreement to Northline. You characterized it when you sent them that timeline. I'm offering to fix your money. If I help you preserve the reason you took it, I'm trying to preserve the company. On the floor below us, a press operator pulls a sheet, checks the register marks, and returns it to the stream. Every few seconds, the retriever's face appears, vanishes, and appears again. If I agree, I say, what happens the next time a launch runs over budget? We tighten the estimate. What happens to Denise's time when you call a press check education? This is about you. That's the problem. He pushes away from the counter. Do you want to be right, or do you want this place to survive? You keep making those sound like opposite things. Sometimes they are. I believe he believes that. It is almost enough to make the room smaller. My answer is no. He nods once, like he has received a vendor quote he dislikes. You should know, he says. Thomas agrees with me. My uncle is waiting outside the observation room. Evan passes him without speaking. Uncle Thomas enters, leaves the door open, and watches the press for a while. I don't agree with all of it, he says. That isn't what he said. He hears the useful part. Runs in the family. My uncle gives me a tired look. You have your mother's timing. She'll be pleased you said that. Don't tell her. The press changes speed below us. The retrievers blur. We should have paid the hours, he says. I wait. Evan was afraid of what the overage would do to the margin report. I told him we would deal with it after the launch. Did you tell him to call it training? No. Did you ask what he called it? Uncle Thomas looks down. That is the answer. I worked those nights because you said Northline could stabilize the company, I tell him. I believed you. It can. I'm not asking whether the account matters. What are you asking? Why the company only becomes family when it needs something from me? The press noise fills the room. My uncle turns his wedding ring around his finger. Your aunt is angry with me, he says. That must be difficult. I deserved that. You did. A reluctant smile touches his mouth and disappears. I'm sorry about Sunday dinner. So am I. Come this week. Not if it's part of the audit settlement. It isn't. I'll ask Aunt Lucia. He nods. Fair. Before he leaves, he puts something on the counter. My blue marker. You dropped it in the conference room, he says. I thought it was behind my ear. You have a pen there. I touch the pen and feel ridiculous. He taps the marker with one stained finger. Your grandfather used red, marked everything like it had personally disappointed him. I use blue. I know. The Northline audit begins at 10 the next morning. Celia and Quentin appear on the conference screen from Cincinnati. Celia has a stack of our sleeves beside her. Quentin has a spreadsheet open and the expression of a man who would prefer all human conflict to fit inside a pivot table. Uncle Thomas sits at the head of our table. Evan and Owen take one side. Denise, Ruth, and I take the other. Cal has been asked to remain available at his desk. Evan presents first. His revised timeline now calls me technical development support and acknowledges that I performed guided client-facing tasks. He explains the coding change, the compressed approval cycle, and the need for after-hours reviews across plants. He is concise and convincing. If I did not recognize my own work inside his verbs, I might admire the presentation. Celia waits until he finishes. Who guided Mara's tasks? She asks. Evan glances at the slide. Responsibility varied by session. Let's take the session on May 8th. That was primarily a Plant 2 color check. I know what it was. Who guided her? He opens his notes. I was the account owner. That wasn't my question. Owen places a printed email in front of him. Mara sent the hold recommendation at 11:58. Celia approved it at midnight. Denise signed the handoff at 12:06. Celia looks at Owen. Were you present? No. Evan, I was available for escalation. Did Mara escalate to you? Evan's silence lasts 1 second too long. No, I say. I called when Plant 2 loaded revision D instead of F. He answered after I stopped the plate release. Celia opens the shared calendar. The 11 violet appointments form a column down the screen. She selects May 8th. My name is listed as host. The attached agenda is mine. The approval email is mine. Denise's handoff shows that I assumed the review after my regular shift and released it after midnight. Quentin enters the times in his spreadsheet. They repeat the process for the next session, then the next. The calendar alone does not prove who worked. Paired with the handoff book, it shows when I arrived and left. Paired with Northline's archive, it shows what I sent while I was there. Paired with the revision map, it shows which decisions came from those sessions. The blue-marked press sheets carry the same revision codes, timestamps, and density readings. On night 7, Evan approved a handoff form identifying me as trainer for Owen and the customer service team. On night 9, he forwarded my checklist to both plants with the message, "Follow Mara's process exactly." On night 11, Celia asked me to reconcile a coding variance, and I sent the corrected build at 12:31. Quentin stops typing. So all 11 sessions generated production decisions. Yes, I say. And all 11 occurred after her recorded day shift? Celia asks. Denise opens the handoff book. 10 did. On the 4th one, Mara's shift started late because she had a dentist appointment. She still crossed 40 hours that week. Quentin adds a note. Evan folds his hands. We are not disputing that Mara participated. The classification question was whether the time primarily benefited her development. Ruth's gum cracks. Every head turns toward her. Sorry, she says, removing it and wrapping it in a tissue. Celia addresses her. When were the hours classified as training? Ruth looks at Uncle Thomas. He says nothing. She looks at Evan. I coded them as overtime when Mara submitted them, Ruth says. The first 6 already had Evan's supervisor initials. Why were they changed? Evan instructed me to recode all 11 after the account margin report. Was there a training designation before that? No. Was Mara informed before the work? No. Evan's chair shifts. The classification review was an internal management decision. Ruth's beaded glasses cord trembles slightly as she takes out the original timesheet. I wrote pending classification review because you said legal classification was being reviewed, she tells him. Then I asked who was reviewing it, and you told me not to make this complicated. Evan looks at her as though she has broken a private law. Ruth lays the sheet beside my altered copy. Uncle Thomas leans forward. Were any other hours recoded that way? Ruth presses her lips together. 2 other employees have training entries attached to client work. I was going to raise them after I finished the report. Denise stares at the table. 1 is Carlo. Ruth does not answer, which answers. Celia closes the calendar but leaves the 11 appointments visible along the side of the screen. Northline's concern is larger than one payroll dispute, she says. Your quoted production cost assumes accurate labor. Your contingency planning assumes accurate labor. If actual launch work can be moved into a training category after the fact, I cannot trust the capacity model you gave us. There it is, the consequence Evan understands. The issue is no longer whether Celia likes me. It is whether his numbers mean what he says they mean. He sits straighter. We can correct the reporting. How? Evan looks toward Uncle Thomas. My uncle does not rescue him. I speak before they can turn me into a remedy I did not design. I'm not asking Northline to manage our payroll, I say. I'm asking Velez to correct the hours, keep original time code records, and put responsibility in writing before assigning it. If my name is on an approval, I need the authority to stop the work tied to it. If I'm scheduled after 40 hours, I need to know how I'm being paid before the meeting starts. Quentin looks up. That would also clean up the approval path. Owen nods. It would. Evan looks at him. Owen holds the look. It would. Celia rests one hand on the stack of sleeves. Northline will renew the regional launch agreement for 6 months, subject to monthly labor reconciliation and a documented approval matrix. Owen can remain commercial lead. Mara must be included as production liaison on technical approvals for as long as she remains employed there. Understood, Uncle Thomas says. The expansion forecast should exclude the proposed press until we have 3 clean reporting cycles, Quentin adds. The Heidelberg brochure seems visible through 2 walls and down a hallway. Evan's face changes then, not dramatically. He simply stops arranging it for the room. We'll provide the records, he says. After the call, Denise returns the handoff book to quality. Ruth goes back to payroll and audits every training entry from the previous 6 months. Carlo in pre-press and May in customer service receive corrected checks along with mine. My deposit includes the 27 overtime hours. It does not refund the weekend I spent working beside Rena's radiator or the afternoon my mother wondered whether my dignity was too expensive. Money is precise that way. It can correct an amount without correcting the cost. The bank delays the equipment line. Evan remains operations manager, but Northline approvals require Owen's commercial sign-off and a production sign-off that cannot be altered after release. He speaks to me politely and only when necessary. Uncle Thomas offers me the client production specialist position again. This version includes defined hours, overtime eligibility, stop work authority, and a salary high enough that the arithmetic no longer feels insulting. I read it twice. Then I slide it back. You asked for this, he says. I asked you to make the job honest. I did. For the next person. His expression folds inward. You're leaving? Rena offered me production work at Juniper. That shop is half a locksmith store. She has purchase orders, boundaries, and heat with a personality. We can match her. I know. That is why I can leave without pretending I have no choice. Aunt Lucia sends me to Juniper on my first day with a container of arroz con pollo and a warning not to let Rena underpay me. My mother makes me open my first paycheck at her kitchen table. Uncle Thomas attends my farewell lunch. Evan does not. 4 months later, when Juniper wins enough regional work to add a second shift quality lead, Denise applies through the regular posting. Rena interviews 3 people and hires her. Denise arrives carrying the old safety glasses she still forgets to lower over her eyes. My first major client approval at Juniper is for a coffee roaster, expanding into grocery stores. I stand beside the press while the operator pulls the final sheet. The black film is deep and even. The copper type lands exactly where it should. I take the blue China marker from behind my ear, circle the clean registration mark, and write the time beside it. My phone vibrates with the next review invitation. The meeting is scheduled for 3 p.m. The rate is already on the purchase order. Beside my name, the calendar carries one accurate word: lead.